I hope my microphone is working. Good afternoon. I hope you all had a very good lunch, because I did not. This panel is an experiment, not only because it has so many speakers, 13 in total. That means 2 times more than 2 parallel panels taking place at this moment. It is also an experiment because because of who the panelists are and how the topic of young people in the Western Balkans is going to be discussed. The overall topic of this year's Bled Strategic Forum is a runaway world. I suspect the title was taken from the writings of Anthony Giddens, who describes the world as a fast train that people built themselves, but it is going so quickly that no one is fully sure how to steer it or where it will end up. We in the Western Balkans often feel like we bought a lifelong ticket for that train in the 1980s, and we are not able to get off it since. And since a couple of years, really, as that was not enough, the train is becoming crowded since the rest of the world seems to be running to join our train as well. If you go more into details of Giddens' writings, he stresses also that the fast train effect produces not only risks and disorientation, but also zones of stability and reflection. Some kind of oasis, which may take different forms. Sometimes it's institutions, sometimes communities of trusts, sometimes spaces of deliberations and conversations. In her yesterday's keynote speech, President of Slovenia, Nataša Pirc-Musar, invited us to be bold and to bring united into diversity. So I understood it as an order. Together with Bled Strategic Forum and the Center of Excellence in Finance, we want to turn the only full Western Balkans panel upside down and turn the only discussion into one such oasis. So let's see what it happens. I was 17 years old to start when the EU Western Balkans leader met in 2003 in Thessaloniki to give the region the European perspective. Back then, I decided to move to Austria to study in Graz because I thought by the time I'm done with my studies, it would be easier for me to get a job in my home country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. We were told that by latest 2014, the countries of the Western Balkans will be joining the EU, and with that, the 100 years of assassination in Sarajevo will be marked. After my studies and some work experience in Graz, Bruges and Brussels, in 2014 I came back to Bosnia and Herzegovina and joined the Foreign Ministry of Bosnia and Herzegovina. By that time, not only Bosnia and Herzegovina did not join the EU, it had not even applied for EU membership. In 2015, I left the Foreign Ministry. Something part of me still feels sorry about it. But the time spent there has been really precious for me and has formed much of my thinking about the EU integration process. It is hundreds, if not thousands and tens of thousands of civil servants who do and who will eventually take the biggest burden of the EU integration process. Most of them will not do it for salary or personal benefits. The work needed to be done is simply too big, very often too complex and too hard. It also requires a special set of skills, almost like playing 3-dimensional chess game. So my conviction is that those who work on it do it because they believe the process and everything linked to it has a bigger meaning and a bigger goal, because it is good for their families, friends, neighborhoods, cities, societies, and country. This is why I'm very, very happy to welcome 6 extraordinary civil servants, young women, who have spent past year not just doing their everyday work, but also in parallel, thinking, debating, and writing about our ideas how to make the region a better place. What my time in the Ministry of Foreign Ministry of Bosnia and Herzegovina taught me as well is that civil servants can be very good even best, smart, courageous, idealistic, but without political leadership and support for ideas, initiatives and work that brings us closer to the EU, it can be very difficult. I don't want to say impossible, because I've seen impossible things happen, but frustrating, and often without best results. This is why I'm very, very, very happy to welcome 5 Western Balkans foreign ministers here with us, and I hope that they will be able to engage in an open discussion on what has already been done and on what more could be done for youth, for our region, for the European perspective. So let's start. Let me invite Jana Repanšek, who is the director of the Center of Excellence in Finance, to give us a background on the amazing work of these young civil servants. 250 pages of data, analysis, criticism, ideas, and proposals. I invite you all to read it after this panel. Jana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adnan, for these introductory words. And I'm so happy that you are moderating this session. So, esteemed ministers, young leaders, colleagues, distinguished guests, I'm so happy to see full hall. It's an honor to address you today. Your presence, full house, reflects our shared commitment to a better future of this region. I thank the forum organizers and young BSF for creating this space that is very innovative for dialogue. My gratitude goes to We Lead mentors, especially Professor Vlado Dimovski in the first row. It also goes to my CF colleagues, above all Laura Katarina Jularic, whose leadership was key to this session. Stand up, Laura. So, what is We Lead? It is an EU scheme for young professionals in the Western Balkans run by the CF, my institution. Its purpose is clear: to empower young civil servants, strengthen their leadership, build connections across borders. Investing in young professionals is not just inclusion. It is a strategic necessity for EU integration. In only 2 years, We Lead has built a network of over 120 civil servants from Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia. They are future leaders. Maybe you are already leaders, I noticed, who are one day, and you are already shaping policies and reforms. Through We Lead, they have learned, you traveled to institutions across the region, received coaching, mentoring, and altogether you will write 24 policy papers. These papers tackle real challenges: talent retention, digital transformation, gender equality, and similar. They're grounded in lived experience, and they offer practical solutions. But let's admit it, We Lead was born from a gap. The missing voice of young people in policymaking. Young people face unemployment, limited mobility, slow political change. Many have responded by simply leaving. In the last decade, between 1.1 to 1.5 million people from the 6 We Lead countries moved to the EU, joining EU or Europe as individuals instead of collectively in their countries. This trend must change, and We Lead is our response. But we must go further. Let's ensure that young people are not just bystanders, but active contributors to reform and regional cooperation. So this session is a step towards this goal. Please, audience, everybody, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. the idea is now to move to our foreign ministers, to give them first the chance to tell us. What exactly have your governments done or are doing to keep young people in the country, and how do you plan to involve and empower young people for EU integration? I have to kindly ask you to stick to 3 minutes. I am Bosnian and Herzegovinian, but since last year I'm also German, which means I hope you will not test my acquired gene of time efficiency that I got from Germans. And I start with you, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora of Kosovo, Madam Gërvalla-Schwarz.
Thank you very much, Adnan, for having us here. A big thanks to everybody who engaged with We Lead. And I will be short because I can't wait to hear what you have prepared and how young people are looking on what our countries are doing. It's for me maybe a little bit easier because I represent not only the youngest state in Europe, but the state with the youngest people as well. So we have an average age of under 34, and that makes it so substantial dealing with young people because you have no other alternative. If you look on my cabinet, my team, you will see that everybody is extremely young. And that's why in Kosovo it is a very normal thing to have special programs in not only inviting and empowering, but responding to the needs of the youth. But I believe that what's the most important is a political environment where young generation can see that the things are moving that way, that they can build their perspective, their future for themselves, for their families later in that country. And that is why it is so important to have credibility of the politics that we all are making. So leading by example, and believe me, young people do look very, very precisely on what you are doing. Leading by example is maybe the most important thing. But I do not want to ignore the very specific programs that we do have. Not only investment in education, healthcare, infrastructure, culture, and sports, but I want to point out a special program that is called Super Puna. Super Puna means super jobs, where the government is supporting every corporation, every business that opens jobs for young people under 25. And meanwhile, there are more than 50,000 young men and women that have these jobs for 1 year supported by government, but more than 50% remain then in their jobs. It is clear that in all of our countries, the phenomena of young people looking somewhere else for a better life is very present. We are happy in Kosovo that the numbers are shrinking, and that means that if you care for the needs of young people, then they will review their plans. Some of them will come back and others will choose not to go. A huge help was visa liberalization for Kosovo, because this opened the opportunity for young people to go to visit countries and to come back again and to see, to have a better basis how to plan their life, and not only the curiosity of going somewhere with visa and then not coming back, but to have the chance to go and come back has shown as being the best instrument of keeping people at home.
Thank you.
So I believe that is all for now. So that
no, thank you. I think it's extremely important that you've mentioned leading by example. To be honest, I would like to stand and maybe go there, because I feel those of you who are familiar with Islamic tradition, I feel a bit like in a mosque on Minder. I will move now to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mr. Elmedin Konaković. The same question.
Thank you so much. It's really a great pleasure, and thank you for organizing a little bit different panel than before. It's actually for the first time. We had one similar organized by RCC. I think it was really good. I'm checking my phone because we have +6 against Greece, a strong basketball team after first half. So I'm coming from the country that was actually a world champion in 2021 in terms of losing people. It was 130,000 Bosnians and Herzegovinians by official Eurostat statistics, actually with the work permissions only in EU member states countries. It's close to 4% of our total population. It's probably, I'm sure, most productive part of our society. Now you can imagine how big is loss for our country when actually you are investing, educating young people, and they're really skilled, and they go to develop some other economies. So I consider this panel is really, really important. I have a list of all activities that actually governments are doing, but I will not read this list. I want to explain a specific Bosnian situation, the most beautiful country in the world probably, with the worst politicians in the world, I'm sure. Because I spent almost 25 years in politics, 20-something years, and they explained me I'm too young before 40 and I'm too old when I'm 40. So mostly the old politicians, actually, they were all communists before. Now they belong to ethnical parties and they're still leading the country, you know. So that's our system. And the first thing we need to do in Bosnia and Herzegovina is to restore the faith, because young people, they're losing the faith in institutions because they're captured by particular parties and individual corruptive interests, you know, because it's really not good to see after you finish your formal education to see some party member taking your place because he's only because he's a party member or because he's a cousin of some politician. So that's our biggest problem. I have a list actually about all Creative Europe, Erasmus, Horizon Europe, Digital Europe. Everything is possible, but we need young people to believe that change is possible in my country, and we need to engage them to start with the political or NGO or some other activities to help us to actually to gain the goal and top priority in our country is, of course, European Union. Why? We talk a lot about European Union. Actually, on the first place, because of economy, we export 93% of our products to European Union, 73% to member states, 20% to the regional market, and all regional countries are candidate countries. I'm repeating this in every single panel. It's really important. That shows the importance of the European path, and of course we need young people to help us, but it's really it's not easy to convince them to be a part of these processes because they're smart, they're intelligent, actually they're investigating, they're finding solutions. They have a lot of options, of course, because of EU problems with the human resources in the first place, and they're actually mostly leaving a country before they deliver something for our country. So at the first place, I will repeat, we need to restore young people faith in the processes in institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
I think that the issue of trust is very important, and to be able to self-reflect even in a critical way as you did it. We appreciate that very much. I want to now move to the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of Albania, Mr. Igli Hasani. The floor is yours.
If I can reply to you shortly, I think what we are doing in Albania, we are creating systems and conditions. And when I speak about the word systems, I speak about that capillarized way of dealing with our young population from the municipality level, where we have created the municipality youth councils, up until the level of the government with major strategies, a minister dedicated to youth, and all the recruitment processes that are, I think, everybody's doing it in the region. And I won't drag you into explaining the mechanics of a system that is mostly oriented from the administration and from the administrative perspective. Because those people, those youngsters that are being involved into it, I don't believe they represent the vast majority. They are excellent, they're brilliant, we have great representatives, but still the aim is to attract those that do not want to work for the public administration, do not want to engage with mechanisms that are linked to the public administration. And this is when I go to the conditions. The conditions are those that make the perspectives of the youngsters brighter in terms of having the will to live in our countries, including in Albania. I have nothing against those people that want to leave Albania. They are looking at better perspectives of themselves living in the West. I'm so happy that 99.99%, probably 100% of the youngsters that are leaving Albania are going to the West. None of them is going East, and this is important. But at the same time, it's crucial and fundamental to understand that in the last 4 or 5 years, Albania has attracted so many tourists, and this has created also a great capability for our youngsters to think and consider themselves coming back, working back as digital nomads remotely from the beaches and the good weather and the good food of Albania, and making and earning some money that it could have been easier for them in different conditions if they lived in Central Europe or elsewhere. I'm also happy to see that there are some initiatives that are mostly coming from Germany that are thinking to open jobs in Albania with qualified workers that can speak German. And those youngsters can come back and live close to their families and spend their own money in their own country. But again, speaking of conditions and systems, the most important thing is that our region, I would like to play with a title. It's a good twist of a movie title, but there is another title that probably people would call Youth Without Youth. And people in our region, we had youngsters that didn't have youth 20, 30 years ago, grew up from kids through wars to becoming adults, and today having the responsibilities on their shoulders. For us, it's the most important thing is to bring the youngsters the perspective of continuing to be not only the so-called 30% of statistics in terms of population, but 100% of the present and the future, and this is the twist on every discussions that we have.
I appreciate very much for you for mentioning the need to attract quality into public administration. I think across the region we see that it's not that much difficult to find people who want to work for public administration, but the quality matters. I want to move to Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia, Mr. Marko Đurić.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I believe that this topic is of incredible importance for the entire region, as our region is, for all the wrong reasons, redefining the notion of youth. With a median age of 44 years in our region, technically even myself at the age of 42 am still in the young category. And there's a clear cry out for change in the way we treat each other in this region. So a broader framework of political cooperation between the countries of the region needs to be created and needs to be pushed forward so that we treat each other differently, that we open up our borders, that we open up avenues for cooperation. Often, Mahatma Gandhi is quoted for saying, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I believe that we need to start from each and every one of us, and that we need to start now by treating each other as political leaders, as national leaders, as representatives of our countries, with a lot more respect when it comes to regional cooperation. Then, in our own countries, we have to correct what's wrong. Clearly, I can speak about my country. We need to work a lot more on economic and social mobility of the younger generation. If you don't want to see the younger generation being politically steered or manipulated by older politicians who want to use their force, their power for their selfish means, you need to create preconditions, which means that you have to work to enable people to start from scratch and succeed in the economic sphere. And also, we have to fight the iron law of oligarchy, meaning that a young person should be able to start also from a low point and get to a senior governmental or civil service position as well. And this is a challenge that I dare to say we all share. Also, just very quickly, we need to make sure that we have stability, that we have a clear path when it comes to our foreign and security policy, that we have economy at the center of our policies, because we are living in a century in which there is a grab for talent and a global competition for talent. And hence, we have a lot of work to do. And the only way to do it is in cooperation with all these young people, to convince them and to work hand in hand that we can create a different future.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important that you've recognized that there is a call, or there is a need for change coming from especially from young people. I think also the question is how to facilitate the transformation and the change. Now I would like to move to our last foreign minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Timcho Mucunski.
So, good afternoon, and thank you for organizing this panel. With this group of colleagues, we are usually together at a panel once in every 2 months. And it's usually the issue of European integration, framed beautifully differently, but the content is very similar. And I'd like to thank you, the Bled Strategic Forum, for thinking outside of the box. And not just bringing us, but bringing together other stakeholders, other young people from our countries to be able to discuss about these very important issues. I will be very quick. First, as the typical politician, to diagnose the problem, and then second, to speak about the solution to the problem. Generally, as a region, fundamentally, what is our issue? Sadly, for over 30 years, the greatest export of the Western Balkans has become young talent. Whether it's doctors, engineers, IT experts, they choose Stockholm, Berlin, New York over Belgrade, Sarajevo, Pristina, Tirana, Skopje, or Podgorica. And this is what we need to change. The problem in terms of policy has been the following. Young people, more often than not, were seen as the object of youth policies rather than being the subject of youth policies. What I mean by that is they weren't involved enough in the creation of policies for youth. The misconception that most previous governments had is that there was a silver bullet to solve immigration, i.e. we thought young people wanted jobs, so we'll create more jobs. The reality is for youth, and I consider myself at the age of 36 youth, and I consider myself as being given the right to be the subject of policy creation. I am a 36-year-old Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. That means the Prime Minister has said, I want young people in my government creating policies. We have a 32-year-old Minister of Digital Transformation in our government. There is large age discrepancies in government, meaning that along with youth, you need experienced people. But that means we create the policies for our own generations. What is very important? There's no silver bullet. I think especially in our region, there are a few key issues that young people are focused on. The first one is good governance. The fight against corruption, a functional system of public administration, not just from the aspect of fighting corruption in public administration, not just from the aspect of services received from public administration, but also access on a daily basis to public administration. Good governance is a key issue why young people emigrate. A focus on good governance keeps the young people at home. From the aspect of jobs and the economy, it's about a system of public works. It's about creating hospitable environments for entrepreneurship. It's about a good education system. It's about a good healthcare system. It's a whole of society approach. It means central government focusing. Somebody mentioned local government. I agree. It's about local government focusing on youth. It's about working together as youth and with youth to create policies. There are excellent policies across the region. And I think one of the realities that we understand now more than ever is the fact that the labor market in the region has turned upside down. In my own country, yesterday a report came out, there are 10,000 jobs that are open. We are looking for people to work. We have young people that have moved abroad very true. I believe most of the immigration from our region is people who have moved abroad for reasons they feel are practical, for a better livelihood, but emotionally they want to come back home, which means now we have the opportunity. The opportunity means being honest and intentful about the change that you will bring, especially from a high political level. If we just say the right things, but don't do the right things as governments, then we will fail miserably. And that is why the things that I spoke about, reforming a judiciary, reforming a system of public administration, reforming education, creating a society where you want to raise your own family. Nobody mentioned environmental issues, fighting pollution, a key critical issue within the entire region, a system of public works that we need to focus on. We have set forward policies, we are creating new policies, but it is very much a matter, as I said, of practicing what we are preaching, following through on the policies. If we do the right job as governments, if we involve youth, if we create a system where all interested parties are involved, and here I mean civil society, here I mean different stakeholders in society, then of course we will be successful. 10 years from now, we'll be proud of not just the discussion we had today, but what our governments have done in practice.
Thank you very much for mentioning this discrepancy between what's on paper in documents and policies and laws in the region and what's in practice. Quite a lot of what we're going to discuss next is going to revolve around it. I also want to thank all the ministers for keeping the time. The German side of me is very, very happy. I will be by first name with the young civil servant panelists. They've received me in their family couple of weeks ago, but I really feel like we know each other for very long. Jana, your paper is on overcoming challenges to women's participation in STEM fields in Kosovo. You map brilliantly barriers from early education to employment. You note stereotypes, lack of role models, weak support policies. But I want to start with a very simple and easy question. What needs to happen to increase young women's employment in the future? And maybe also as important, how does that help Kosovo's European path?
Thank you. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are the pillars of Kosovo's economy. Yet women make up only 16% of Kosovo's STEM workforce, and in critical sectors like energy, only 6% of technical roles are held by women. This is not a question of ability. Girls perform as well as boys in school. But from early education to employment, gender stereotypes, lack of role models, rigid workplaces, and outdated hiring practices consistently push women out. If we don't fix this, we risk not only gender inequality, but a major loss of talent and innovation. My policy paper, Overcoming Challenges to Women's Participation in STEM Fields in Kosovo, proposes a comprehensive national strategy that addresses both the entry and exit points of the system, respectively education and employment. It begins in the classroom, integrating gender-sensitive curricula, training teachers to recognize and reduce stereotypes, expanding scholarships, and establishing mentorship programs that connect young girls to successful women in STEM. But education alone is not enough. To retain women in the workforce, Kosovo must reform labor laws, ensure flexible and family-friendly policies, and adopt gender-sensitive hiring and promotion practices. Recent initiatives such as coding workshops, NGO programs, and company internships have been inspiring, yet they remain short-term, scattered, and donor-driven. The real difference comes when the state leads, as we have seen with the scholarship scheme by the Ministry of Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation in Kosovo. Through this scheme, they have awarded thousands of scholarships for every young girl who enrolls in any higher public education institution in Kosovo. And through the last 4 academic years, thousands of scholarships have been granted, considerably increasing female enrollment in STEM. Of course, strategies like this cannot work in isolation. They require the coordination of multiple stakeholders: the Ministry of Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation, the respective ministries of Economy, Labor, and Finance, Prime Minister's Office, higher education institution, private sector actors, and international partners. I would also like to briefly mention the importance of gender quotas. I know that gender quotas can be controversial. When they first were introduced in Kosovo Assembly, they faced resistance. Yet by the elections of 2021, 33 women secured their seats in the Assembly without quotas, which means that visibility had shifted public perception. In the same way, in employment, the quotas can serve as short-term accelerator until inclusion becomes the norm. I would like to point out that Kosovo has made progress when it comes to women empowerment in general in recent years. However, these steps remain highly dependent on political willingness and donor funding. What we need to do is to integrate them into our policies and national legislation so that women feel protected, supported, and certain that these opportunities will not disappear just because of shifts in political priorities. In conclusion, I would like to say that I've been working in the energy sector in Kosovo for more than 10 years. I've seen firsthand how very few women hold leadership and technical roles, not because they lack skills or talent, but because the system wasn't built with them in mind. Yet, while developing my policy paper, I've also seen what's possible when we remove the barriers. Young women thriving in internships, stepping into leadership, and reshaping STEM into a space where they can belong. No developed society has ever thrived by leaving half of its talent behind. But when we invest nationally, when we build policies that make a real lasting difference, we do not just encourage women to join STEM, we support them to thrive into it. This way, we create a society where girls and boys grow up believing that talent, curiosity, and persistence, not gender, determine who leads and shapes the future. Thank you.
Iliriana, thank you very much. I would like to give the floor to Minister Gërvalla-Schwarz to respond. I think in particular, it's interesting this aspect that Iliriana mentioned about there are some initiatives, there is something happening, but how do we make it systematic, not dependent, especially on the foreign donors, but also not dependent on internal decision-making or short-term funding? And in particular, maybe also, how does that all relate to EU process from your point of view?
Iliriana, thank you so much. It was really just great, and it is so good to see when young women speak powerful and loudly, not only for them, but for all the women that believe to have power to change things, but do not have the chance, the access on how to do that. So it is true, in Kosovo something has changed fundamentally. Women are no more tolerated in politics or economy, but they are a very normal part of all developments in the country. So we do have a government at the moment where we have 15 ministers, and out of 15 ministers, 5 are women, but not the usual women ministries. Justice, industry, economy, education, foreign affairs, and diaspora are all in women's hands. We have, for the second time, a president, a woman. We have, for the second time, a woman as foreign minister. And when we sit together, we have a very sympathetic group of women foreign ministers, where sometimes our male colleagues can join. And I see that Kosovo is one of these very rare countries where you have for a second time a woman foreign minister or president, which shows that quotas have their importance as well. We started in the parliament with quotas, but now again, this election in February 2025, out of our parliamentary group, not one single woman came in the parliament with quota. But what is very specific, and there I can compare my experience in old Europe, Germany, with my own children and their friends, and what's happening in Kosovo. One of our boys has studied IT, and you could not find girls in the same classes where he has been, not in mathematics or a very small number. One of my advisors is professor of mathematics at the University of Pristina, and he told me that in his classes where he teaches financial mathematics, you have definitely more women, young women, than young men. And this shows, this has something to do a little bit with education in our family as well, I believe. Because in our society, we teach girls very early to take responsibility, to help at home, to take care about family needs. And with the boys, it's a little bit different. Mothers do not teach our boys very early how they take responsibility at home. And when you then see how fast young women, not only in education, but later in the jobs that they are doing, how fast they are able to take important responsibility, then this is fascinating for everybody that has not spent the whole life in a country like Kosovo. So it is always a question of decision making. Because, but Igli said we need to build systems that do not depend only on the will, but that do depend on a system that is stable and that empowers women, young women, to do that. These scholarships for STEM and others show really results. Because it is very rare that you have entrepreneurs in Kosovo in ICT fields that are in a huge number women. But what we see in politics is a different page than participation in responsible jobs in economy. And there I fully agree with you in the field of energy, for example. We need to have dedicated programs that help young women to find themselves without barriers, even in responsible jobs in private economy.
Thank you very much. We have two civil servants with us from North Macedonia. So if Minister doesn't mind, we're going to listen to both of the civil servants and then we'll offer you a chance to respond. But we stay with similar topic. Tatiana wrote about promoting gender equality in North Macedonia's defense sector. You really looked at legal frameworks, practice, underrepresentation and implementation gaps in policies. So also for you, an easy question. Which change would most quickly convince young women to apply for jobs in the defense sector in North Macedonia? And how would that help EU accession process?
Thank you, Adnan. So, I will address your questions, but let's first start with numbers. In North Macedonia, there are 40% of female cadets each year on the military academy, which is a good number. But in the reality, there is only 11% of women representation in the Macedonian army, which is a challenge. And until now, we still don't have a female general. So let me be clear. The fact is that the doors are legally open for women in the defense sector, but the path is full of obstacles. So, but let me focus on one thing. The representation, it's not the main issue in the defense sector. I mean, it's a male-dominated sector. We can introduce quotas, and that is a way of positive discrimination. But quotas are not really preferable because the whole process, it's not about adding women in this sector. It's about integrate them. And why do women feel that they are not integrated in this sector? The challenges are the following. So for decades, this sector was traditionally male-dominated, as I already mentioned, and it was built to serve the needs of the male population, like infrastructure, facilities, uniforms, equipment. Nowadays, they just don't fit of the physical characteristics and also of the needs of the women. So we must adjust that. Also, outdated stereotypes, harassment, gender-based violence. I mean, everything is still present. It is decreased, but still, generally in our society, these things are still present. Also, the absence of solid work-life balance programs. So, connected to our topic today, if we are saying that our region is no place for young people, from a gender perspective, can you imagine for young women? I mean, for young women, this region is twice as closed. But I know our government is really, especially our Ministry of Defense, is really dedicated to improve gender equality in the defense sector. But let's see the bigger picture in our societies. So in the last decades, women empowerment movements resulted in more and more young women who are dedicated to build successful careers. And we cannot judge those women for choosing a career over parenthood if, as a society, we fail to deliver. We fail to deliver solid gender balance policies which will support the social roles in our societies. So, what is the result of all of this? Declined birth rate. And if we add the ongoing immigration process of young population, we are going to the bigger problem. The biggest problem is aging of the population, which is something that not just my country is facing, but also the whole Western Balkans and maybe most of the European countries are facing. And this is not only a problem, I would say. Let me be clear that this is a threat to our economical growth, our social structure, and our national security. So, based on my researches, the message I want to convey here is that the absence of solid gender policies, it's not just a women's issue. It's a social challenge. And making a space for young women and young population in our countries, it's an investment of politics and politicians in stronger institutions and security and in the EU values. So I want to use the presence of our foreign minister and say that my country has committed to the EU, NATO, UN gender frameworks. So, Mr. Minister, can we translate these international commitments into real reforms at home so we can make young people build their future at home? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. I hope the minister will. Would you be able to, or you want to quickly? Yes, please. But then. Answer. And then the other one,
you bring them
if you can remember the question, then we can let the. Very good. Thank you very much. Maja, reading your paper was actually my biggest surprise. I saw the title, Human Trafficking, and I thought, another about the Balkans and the human trafficking and the issue. But you look at it from a really, really interesting perspective, and that is high-tech, how online internet and other aspects have emerged in North Macedonia and how to fight it. So I want to ask you also a simple, concrete question. What institutional and policy upgrade would most improve investigations into online trafficking, and how would that help EU accession process?
Thank you, Agdan. So my policy paper, Security Policies in Combating Human Trafficking in North Macedonia, represents that human trafficking shows a flagrant violation of human rights. And more often in the reports or in the news, we can see that this crime is written as modern slavery. Unfortunately, now it's more difficult to fight this crime because it happens mostly in the digital dimension. Let me remind that the policies for combating human trafficking in the EU acquis are contained in the Chapter 24, Justice and Home Affairs, and also there is a body in the Council of Europe called Greta, which develop policies in their convention. It's important to mention some numbers that, unfortunately, almost 7,000 people only in the European Union every year are victims of human trafficking, and the costs from this crime are estimated up to 2.7 billion euros. Unfortunately, as I said, there is a digital dimension now, and it's more difficult to catch the criminals because they act totally anonymously from one space to another. And they're able now to create dating apps, fake job advertisements, they pay in cryptocurrencies, all that in order to manipulate and exploit innocent people. What motivates me personally to explore this, to search about this topic, not also because I work in the Ministry of Interior and I'm also part of the National Commission for Combating Human Trafficking in Macedonia, is the situation after the COVID-19, because almost in every report we can see that mostly the young generation and our children can be affected. So let me, in this occasion, send a message that we have to act now, because the criminals are now very faster than us, and maybe there are 2 or 3 steps already in front of us. So regarding to your question, my research shows that we can, and I wrote several recommendations, let's say, like creating stronger legal framework, not only in Macedonia, but in all of the countries within the Europe. We have to invest in modern technologies for investigating, not only in the Ministry of Interior, but also in the financial police and other institutions in our country. We have to strengthen the cooperation between the governments, so the international cooperation is very important, not only between the governments, but with the NGO sector and with international organizations. And the most important, not only the institutions, but everyone in the society should work on raising the public awareness, like campaigns and some stuff like that. So in the conclusion of my research, I wrote that it is imperative that we adapt with the same speed and agility, and even faster than the criminals, because the future is in our hands. And if we want to live in a safer space, this generation and the generation of our people, especially because this is so emotionally for me, firstly because I'm a mother, and also on another side because I work in the Euro integration sector, because fighting for this crime is a small but important part for all the countries from the Western Balkan, because there are standards in the EU acquis and also in the international law regulation. And in the end, not connected to, especially not so specifically connected to my research, but also connected with the young generation, I would like to have a question to the minister and to answer how the ministry is cooperating with EU to create better opportunities for young people, so they can remain and build the future in our homes, like in our countries in the Western Balkan.
Thank you very much.
So first of all, let me say, I will leave today's discussion very impressed. Why? I am a firm believer that in an era where populism is rising in politics, we as young politicians have an obligation to focus much more on policy than on day-to-day politics, because that's what brings effective change. And the discussions we're having are purely this, very niche topics that first of all make you think about how you're doing. When Tatiana started her discussion, one of the first things I started was counting in my head high-level leadership at the Foreign Ministry to see how I was doing on this issue. And I will be praising myself now a little bit. We politicians like to do this. I am over 50%, but it's not because I'm ticking boxes. And I am telling you this honestly. It's because I believe in competent people. And at the moment, I believe that over 50% of the leadership at the Foreign Ministry is female, not because they're female, but because they're very competent. I think our generation has gone above and beyond the taboos that did exist. And I think part of what you're speaking about right now, the deficiencies, the lack of a female general. For the first time, we have a female head of state. We're very proud of. And I also, I don't want it to be seen by the President and Minister of Defense that I am intervening in their work, but I believe that there will soon be, hopefully, a female general. But with the statistics that you're talking about, as the years go by, these young cadets and officers, they will be part of that competitive environment. And at some point, maybe when we're closer to retirement, but 50% of the generals will be females. And, that's what we need to work for. And we need to create policies. But one of the things I was very happy that they both referred to, both Tatiana and Maja, is the issue of family and demographics. Because this is the biggest issue that we have on a regional level. You mentioned it in different ways, how we need to create policies for women to not destimulate them from having families. And Maja mentioned how this affects her because she's a mother. And this is a very important issue that we need a national approach on and a regional approach on, because you cannot have nations without people. And sadly, recent censuses are showing us that the situation is catastrophic, and we need to start focusing on policies, because I believe demographic policies are policies for families and policies for young people, because young people are those that need to create families. What we're doing together with the EU. It's small things and it's big things. I mean, I mentioned today at a discussion that we had this morning with the Slovenian, the Croatian foreign minister, and representatives of other EU member states, that I think one of the best things that the European Union has done over the last year is the growth plan and the reform agenda, because there are very tangible things within these reform agendas and which we are pushing when it comes to reform. I was recently criticized, actually, in domestic politics, that I left Brussels speaking about roaming, but I think that's also a very important issue. We need to eliminate roaming for the citizens of the Western Balkans. This is something that we're talking about right now with representatives in Brussels, collectively, as a region. I joke sometimes, and Dino sort of touched it again, his pet peeve is transport and the challenges that our transport companies are facing. And right now we're talking collectively as a region right now about green lanes, because whether it's roaming, whether it's green lanes, whether it's energy sector reform, this correlates itself into, as I said, good governance, opening jobs, stimulating entrepreneurship, making travel easier, but also creating societies that are more and more, as the EU likes to say, becoming gradually integrated with the European Union. And this is where our focus is on. To be successful, as I said, we need reform in practice, not on paper, but also, to be very open, because we are now in an EU member country, we also need delivery coming from the European Union. Because even if we do the right things, even if we say the right things, if the delivery for the whole region, when it comes to enlargement, a clear, tangible outlook on enlargement, if it isn't there, then many young people will also lose hope, and that will play itself into the main topic of this event.
Thank you very much. I would move now to Stela from Albania. Stela, you looked at the EU strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region. I think no one outside of foreign ministries or knows much about it. But I think what matters in your paper, to me at least, is that you really take a very critical look at regional cooperation in a way, what can we do more to benefit more from regional cooperation? So I give the floor to you.
Thank you for your introduction, Adnan. I'm so happy that I'm here today and that we are speaking about a real theme like the regional cooperation. I have chosen this topic because I wanted to be part not only of my country with this topic, but also with other countries of Western Balkans, also Serbia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, which is a member of these macro-regional strategies. I don't want to go to explain what is EUSR, this macro-regional strategy that includes the region of Adriatic and Ionian region, but because we go till evening. But I want to say that this is a very, very important tool to go through a very smooth process through the EU integration. So I have done a very huge research through including all the national coordinators that are included not only in Albania but in other countries, because the EUSR include EU member countries and candidate countries. So it's a very important tool to be together and to work as equal countries. I have identified also some challenges for the implementation of the strategies in Albania, like the lack of coordination through the interinstitutional line ministries in Albania, the lack of transparency in the managing of EU funds. So I have recommended to include the governance of this strategy in Albania as a steering committee, and to include not only the government, but also to include the academia, universities, students, civil society organizations, to bring them together in one table and to discuss more and to bring new ideas and new projects for the implementation. So I think that it's very important that to use this tool all together, and this is, I think, that a call to action that we can bring all the young people to contribute with new ideas, new projects, and to empower them to this strategy in Albania.
Thank you very much. Minister Hasani?
I'll go back to what I said previously, but also Donika and Timcho were mentioning. It's all about the quality and not the quantity. The quantity, sometimes we reach quotas. We have the numbers. It's easy, I don't know, in the Albanian government has more than 50% of its members women. The Albanian parliament has more than 40% women. The foreign ministry has 53% of its ambassadors and directors women, but it's not about the numbers. The numbers are very mechanical and don't show anything. It's about the substance, the quality, and it's on us to continue strengthening those possibilities for young people and also for women. And I'm delighted to see such a great future for ourselves, and I'm really looking forward to work with these people. I am working with some, but I hope I'll be around. No country for old men is your trick, but I'm pretty sure that we will be around for long to be in the hands of these individuals that are really the change of the realities that we're facing. And look where we were. Let's look at our countries where we were, and let's look at the perspectives of working together 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago. There are people in this panel that I would not have been speaking with 20, 25 years ago. Now we work together, we join forces, we find solutions, and we look at different perspectives jointly. And there is one joint perspective that we look with, I believe, with good enthusiasm, that is the European Union, and why not? Let's continue to work together and move forward. I was looking at the audience. I saw a gentleman that was chairing my panel last year. I'm happy to see that at least this year the panel is not only men. It's important, and so good to have such a good perspective here.
Thank you very much. We have two civil servants with us from Montenegro, but sadly Foreign Minister Ervin Ibrahimović was unable to join us. But the topics that our experts analyzed, yes, focus on Montenegro, but they can translate to the rest of the region very easily. Both Milena and Stela look at the EU funds, the use of EU funds through two different perspectives, I would argue. So I would actually allow both of you to speak to us on how we can actually improve both the resources, both the staff and the quality, so we can better use the EU funds, and then we will have our two foreign ministers responding from their own perspective of what this issue means. So Milena, first you.
Thank you. First of all, let me say that I'm extremely grateful to be here today and for the opportunity to share the findings of my policy paper developed within the WeLead program. My topic deals with how to quickly reinforce Montenegro's administrative capacity ahead of the EU accession, especially in the field of EU funds management. I believe that making civil service, which is the topic of today's session panel, more appealing to young people requires more than just quick wins. I think it calls for a strategy, an informed strategy that would make public administration more transparent, credible, and resilient for Montenegro's EU membership. This is crucial at this point because our clock is ticking. As you probably know, Montenegro hopes to become the member of the European Union by the end of 2028. And with the transition from IPA, from pre-accession funds to the much larger European structural and investment funds, Montenegro will need to have at least 5 times more people working in this field. Where there only, at this point, there are 240 people. The good news, however, is that my survey shows that there is an appetite for mobility and capacity development within the civil service. And with more than 54,000 people already in the system, it makes sense that we first look at how existing staff are used and before bringing in new people. After all, this is what career development and effective human resources management are really about. One very practical way forward is through enhancing the mechanism of internal mobility with the support of a digital platform developed and a few legal adjustments. This mechanism could facilitate the transfer of people from where there are surpluses to where capacities are most needed at this point. But of course, none of this would be possible without proper guidance. So that's why it is essential to begin with a functional analysis to clearly understand what change is needed and where. This is not about adding layers of bureaucracy, but about getting a truthful image that guides evidence-based decisions. And importantly, it helps reconcile 2 very conflicting goals at this point in Montenegro, which is to strengthen the EU funds management structure and at the same time to keep the public sector, the size of the public sector sustainable. On the other hand, since there will inevitably be new recruitments, I think one very simple measure to implement is to simply recruit which I suggested in this paper, to recruit top-performing university graduates. This is how we show that merit in public administration truly matters, and this is how we attract and keep people in public administration. And if the goal is to involve them in something that is here to stay, such as managing the EU funds, then it makes sense to include EU fund management related subjects in academic curricula and adapt the curricula. So in a nutshell, my paper is really about responsibility, or how to use the existing resources and the future public resources more wisely and effectively, and ensure that institutions keep their promises to citizens. Getting this right means not only that Montenegro enters the EU not only formally prepared, but truly capable of making the most out of this membership. So my guess is that as candidate countries, we all share the same challenge, how to strengthen the administrative capacity quickly and how to do it in a smart way. And the question is, how can we learn from each other in doing so, especially in light of the more and more expanding artificial intelligence?
Yes, thank you very much. Stela, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a really pleasure to be part of today's panel, and I think this panel is a great opportunity for young professionals to have their voices heard. When I started working on my policy paper on retention policy in IPA structure, or as we all call it, IPA structure in Montenegro, I immediately realized that only analyzing strategies and laws wouldn't be enough. I'm part of that system myself, and I know that you can see the real picture only when you hear the voices of civil servants. So I conducted a survey among colleagues from IPA structure, and the results were very clear with strong message. Almost 70% of them answered they had considered leaving public administration in the last 3 years. So that means that 2 out of 3 colleagues are thinking about leaving. The reasons are different. Salaries that do not match complexity of their work, lack of recognition, overload. Higher salaries may motivate people in a shorter term, but in my opinion and research of my policy paper, conducting a career paths for growth and stability is something that will motivate people to stay in public administration. When especially young and motivated people, when they see that their efforts lead forward and that they have future in public administration, then they decide to stay. And this is especially important, as my colleague Milena mentioned, now for Montenegro, because we are closer and closer to the EU membership. And for EU funds management, now we have almost 240 people, but we will need many, many more when we join EU, not just for management EU funds, but for all the laws and all areas of our governments. So now this is why is crucial to think about people that we already have. There is so many qualified, competent and motivated people in public administration in Montenegro, and we need to think about them before maybe new employments, because without them there is no continuity, no transfer of knowledge, and most important, no good system that can manage obligations from the EU in the future. So. Finally, with my experience in public administration, what I realized with no doubt is that people are the key. They implement reforms, they manage funds, they carry European integration processes. So we need to think about them and they really need strong professional support, so not just young people, but all of civil servants in Montenegro. And for the end, I would really like to hear from other Western Balkan countries about their experience in this regard, maybe some ideas or initiatives they have. Thank
you very much. Ministers Đurić and Konaković, I would like to bring you now in. Maybe first Minister Konaković, due to the fact that Bosnia and Herzegovina is the only country who's not part of the growth plan or not using the funds offered by the growth plan. I give the floor to you. And you could respond to also anything else that you've heard.
I have to be really careful commenting the functionality of Montenegro public administration and not to make any diplomatic scandal, but it's even worse to Marko. He has also to explain and not to analyze Montenegro public administration functionality. I want to say something about funds. First of all, we were often analyzing the difference between candidate countries and the European member states countries. It's 10 times in favor of European member states, I think, per capita. And that shows the big difference actually in using cohesion, structural and other funds. I'm talking often about examples actually about previous Eastern Bloc countries. Before the war in my country, we were really, I have to be honest, we were stronger economy than ex-Yugoslavia, of course, than some EU member states today. And you can analyze their GDP actually in the last decade or two, and you can see that they tripled their GDP per capita after they actually become a full members of European Union. I was talking about Poland, excellent example actually. Poland, they pulled around 250 billion euros. It's 84 billion for agriculture. And today they have really strong economy. Of course, because they have strong economy, they have strong army also. And they are really strong in agriculture. So those examples have to be used to explain to the people in Western Balkans why we are talking about European Union and what kind of advantages if you can use, if you have approach to use funds, all kinds of funds. So that is importance of our economy connecting with the export I was talking about. So that's the main reason why we need to stay focused on the reforms, because if we deliver, if we actually do our homework, we are continuing with the European path. We are approaching closer and closer to funds, not only to funds. And I will finish with the growth plan story. I have good news today. Actually, I have a message from the Ms. Kristo, the lady chairwoman of Council of Ministers, sending the documents for the next phase of program of reforms for the growth plan. And I hope we will vote tomorrow or day after tomorrow, and we will catch this train, which is really great. I agree with Timcho completely. The gradual integration of our industries, those who are ready to be integrated, is great advantage. We are a small country, small market. We cannot bring many serious investors because of, I don't know, 3 million people, consumers in Bosnia and Herzegovina only. But if we open the strong and big European single market, and if we can export faster, like we are talking about some green lines, and if we can export more, so I'm sure that we will bring some serious investors. We will have better salaries. We have really good life conditions, like comparing to some other European capitals, it's much cheaper, the life in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the life costs. And then we can expect young people to stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina, some of them to get back to their homes, because I have many contacts with Bosnians all around the world. They hope that something will change and they will have opportunity to go back to their homes.
Thank you. Minister Đurić.
Well, thanks for the tip, and I really do not want to entirely disappoint those who were hoping that we will have a bit more of a fighting between the foreign ministers here. But I do think that we can compete when it comes to representation of women in our political system and in our social life. Actually, 72% of all of the judges in Serbia and prosecutors are women, many of them of the younger generation. Also, the head of our Supreme Court, our Constitutional Court, the Speaker of Parliament, until recently also the Prime Minister was a lady for 6.5 years. Of course, in Parliament we do have a quota system, and I'm not saying that it has resolved all of the issues with women participation in political life, but much to the satisfaction of my chief of staff here, who is always advocating for this, I must say that it has advanced the position of women in politics. Of course, always we can do a lot more. And in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, around 50% are ladies. Now, I also want to fully agree with what our colleague Stela here said about the importance of actual living people and the need to invest in them. And it's better not to learn this lesson the hard way, because we can build all the infrastructure you can imagine, create all the possible preconditions, but if we do not have a capable civil service, if we don't have capable and functional institutions, we cannot have a long-term future. And in order for this broader framework to be really sustainable, we need to have the EU get a grip on its own future. I don't want to be critical or anything, but if the EU does not seize the opportunity to further enlarge and consolidate its core structure, I'm afraid that our continent, and not just our region, is at risk of becoming a theme park for senior citizens and a place where you can actually eat a nice meal and wine and dine at Michelin restaurants, but no real participation in scientific innovation, in economic breakthroughs, in overall advancement. So including the Balkans should be a no-brainer. And it might sound like a risky investment because we are not getting along all too well always. But this region has the potential of being the leader in economic growth in entire Europe. So it's worth investing. And actually, if this does happen, I'm convinced that on the 30th Bled Forum, we will be actually discussing how the progress of the Balkans can be reflected elsewhere on the continent. This might sound bold, but with a younger generation behind such an ambition, I'm sure it can be done. So, thank you.
The experiment is over. You can breathe now. And we won the game. Before we conclude, I want to tell you a little secret. As with all such panels and moderations, I reached out and I was contacted by my colleagues with suggestions from friends across the region, civil society members, activists, young people, what I need to ask you and what I need to tell you. They wanted me to challenge the foreign ministers. They wanted me to a bit annoy you as well. For example, one of the questions for you, Minister Đurić, was to ask you about your country's policy on exporting arms to Israel. And of course, to also challenge some of your narratives or your government narratives regarding the ongoing protests in Serbia, or what we've heard from Speaker Brnabić when she blamed the outsiders for the Novi Sad tragedy. My Serb friends from North Kosovo, they reached out to me. They wanted me to challenge you on the situation and on the policies that are being implemented in North Kosovo. My friends from Bosnia and Herzegovina, they wanted me to ask Minister Konaković if and what the state-level institutions plan to do and can do if Milorad Dodik decides to do what he keeps on threatening he might do. I could have, maybe I should have, but I chose not to. I might regret it. I think that the fast train that gave the topic to this entire Bled Strategic Forum has enough fuel in the Western Balkans. So before I conclude and thank all the panelists, I want to remind you what the Slovenian president, Nataša Pirc-Musa, said just yesterday. As leaders, we shape the future, a path towards democracy, prosperity, and peace, rule of law, or a spiral into fear, crisis, and war. This is our moment to choose the side of history we will stand on. Billions, she said, I would say in the case of Western Balkans, millions depend on your choices. Thank you very much for being part of this panel, and thank audience for staying a bit longer with us, but it's just 10 minutes, so it's okay.